So this was a draw week, and what's special with the draw week? Well, ask a person who has been waiting anxiously for the express entry draw. Well, yes, today was one of those days when an express entry draw did take place, not to the expectations for a large population out there of people who have been waiting. But nevertheless, it was also very exciting for equally large population who has also been waiting for this kind of a draw. Express entry draw number 174, today being the 21st of January. The draw was Canadian Experience Class Program Specific Draw. Minimum CRS score for this draw was 454, and a total of 4,626 invitations were issued to eligible candidates, eligible profiles in the express entry pool. And from eligible, I mean because this was a Canadian Experience Class Program Specific Draw, therefore people only who are eligible under the CEC class, basically, which means people who have at least 1 year of work experience in Canada within the last 3 years, those were the people who have received invitations if their score was 454 or above. Let's get to the pool breakdown and see what's happening over there. Right, so here we are on the IRCC official website, and this is the round of invitations draw as announced today. So draw number 174, 21st of January. This was for Canadian Experience Class only. Total number of invitations issued are 4,626. And for this, the lowest CRS score was 454. The tiebreaker rule that applied was for January 23rd, 2020, and the time was 5:32 UTC. What this basically means, for people who do not understand the tiebreaker rule or who are not aware of it, it basically applies to the lowest CRS score. If your score is 454 and you are a CEC candidate, then only if your profile was created before this date and time, then your profile was included in this draw. If your profile was created after this date and time and your score is 454, then your profile was not included in this particular draw. Now, this tiebreaker does not apply to scores more than 454. It applies only to the score of 454. So that's the tiebreaker rule explained. Now, scrolling down, this was the Crs Score Distribution. This was already cleared, obviously, because there was the PNP draw yesterday, as we're already aware. Almost 23,893 profiles in the pool with the score between 451 and 500. Now, of this, obviously, always the two sections which are of most interest to us are in this range. So roughly 10,355 profiles as can be seen. But since today's draw was at 454, so basically you're looking at this particular segment, 12,411 profiles. Now, all the profiles above the score of 454 would have received their invitations if they were under Canadian Experience Class. This basically still gives you an indication of how many profiles are still in the pool, and therefore what can you expect in terms of what kind of scores can you expect in future. Now, because IRCC does not disclose how many profiles in the pool are federal skilled worker profiles and how many of them are CEC profiles, therefore there is no clear indicative way of differentiating and identifying how many profiles are there in the pool, and based on that you really cannot make a judgment call and predict scores in the future. But this still gives you an overall understanding of what exactly is the pool breakdown and the pool strength, and based on that you could sort of have a fair judgment of scores going forward. Now, this does give you one small indication. Now, this tells you if the total profiles in the pool are 2,000 at the score of 471 to 480, and then there are obviously 806 between 481 and 490 and another 321. So that's roughly 3,000 profiles above the score of 471. And yes, there are some 457 profiles at 501 at 6, between 501 and 600. Who are these people? 457 people with scores more than 501. Oh wow. So basically these have to be people who have Canadian work experience, who have Canadian education, and possibly also have a job offer. They could be intra-company transfer, they could have an LMIA job offer, or simply they could have a sibling, French points, French language points. Yeah, but several factors could take you and bump your score up to 500 and above. Anyways, coming back to what is our interest. So if the profiles above 471 as of this particular breakdown is in the range of roughly 3,500, and obviously a lot of these profiles would have got cleared with today's draw, that gives you an indication that if federal skilled worker draw, or if it was an all program draw which was to happen today, the scores would have still remained in the range of 470, 469, 470 kind of a range. So let's say if there are 5,000 ITAs to be issued today, you can see from this that your score would have not been more than 470. So that still is a bit of relief that there are not too many profiles, and that gives you an indication of what to expect in the coming draws. Now coming to the factor of what can we expect in the future draw, are we gonna see a trend? Well, to be very honest, nobody can really define or tell you that, and one of the reasons why nobody can tell you is because we don't really know what IRCC is thinking or what Canadian government is thinking at this point of time. Immigration Minister Marco Mendicino had made it very clear some time back, I think it was late last year, that they are looking at ways and means of giving additional advantage to people who have Canadian work experience, who have Canadian education, so that they could pursue their pathway, or they could find a proper pathway for Canadian immigration. IRCC and Canadian government has been looking at different ways and means by which they could create new pathways or sort of make it easier for people to become permanent residents in Canada, especially if they were already in Canada. People who are already in Canada, they are seen as individuals who have already contributed to the Canadian economy, to the Canadian job market, and they have obviously spent a lot of money. If they are international students, they have obviously contributed by way of taxes, by way of contributing to the economy, and they are seen as individuals who have already achieved certain level of experience dealing with the Canadian way of life, and therefore they are seen as individuals who could very easily integrate with the Canadian society, with the Canadian life, with the way things are done in Canada. And hence, because they have contributed, this is Canada's way of extending to them and help them become permanent residents sooner than later. And therefore, I personally feel it's a good move. There is nothing wrong with this. Yes, I can absolutely understand the sentiment of thousands of people who are federal skilled worker and waiting for their draw. Some of you are losing points because of age. Some of you are losing points because maybe your IELTS is going to expire and you're not confident what's going to happen the next time you take your IELTS. Different factors for different people, but at the same time, Canada does reserve its right in choosing who they think should be invited at this point of time. And by exercising this right, they have obviously gone ahead and conducted the second draw, which was CEC, or program specific draw. So as far as 2021 is concerned, there has been no federal skilled worker draw as of now. Will they continue? Well, it's something that has to be seen. I personally don't feel they will continue. They probably at some point of time will start alternating between the CEC and all program draw. This way they will balance out or give opportunity to both sides of the people in the pool, and that probably would be a good way to go. But until such time that they do that, we can only speculate and we can only predict and hope that happens. And until such time, we can just keep running these numbers and figuring out what they're going to do next. Well, that's all from me today. Thank you for watching. Do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.